Which of the following best describes a trust agreement? First, a contract between two businesses for joint ventures, a document that contains the trust's terms and conditions or instructions for the trustee, a financial statement showing the trust's assets, a certificate proving the trust is legally valid. Second option. What is a key feature of a revocable living trust? It cannot be changed once created. It can be changed or revoked during the trust maker's lifetime. It automatically expires after 10 years. It requires court approval for any modification. Second option. Which statement about an irrevocable trust is most accurate? It cannot be easily changed, though exceptions sometimes exist. It can be freely changed at any time by the trust maker. It is always temporary and ends after the grantor's death. It is identical to a revocable trust. First, next. Excuse me. Which of the following best defines a fiduciary? Someone who acts on behalf of another with the legal duty to act in their best interest. Someone who acts only for personal gain. A person who witnesses the signing of a will. A financial advisor who manages investments. First, in the context of a trust, the trustee is always a fiduciary, sometimes a fiduciary depending on the trust terms, never a fiduciary, only a fiduciary if appointed by a court. Always a fiduciary. When someone dies without a will, the administrator appointed to manage the estate is always a fiduciary, not a fiduciary since there is no will, a fiduciary only if beneficiaries agree, a fiduciary only if the estate is large, always a fiduciary. How does the role of an executor compare to that of an administrator? Executor is the counterpart to administrator, but with a will and is always a fiduciary. Executor is never a fiduciary, and like administrator, executor is only a fiduciary if the will says so. Executor is a temporary fiduciary until probate ends. First, why are many states adopting the term personal representative to provide a gender-neutral catch-all term for both administrator and executor, to avoid confusion with trustees, to eliminate fiduciary duties, to simplify tax filings? First option. Which statement about fiduciary standards is most accurate? Fiduciary standards apply only to family members. Fiduciary standards are optional in estate planning. Fiduciary standards are identical for all roles. Professionals may be held to a higher fiduciary standard than lay people. Last option. Which of the following best describes a conservator or guardian? A volunteer who helps with estate paperwork, a court-appointed individual obligated to manage an incapacitated or minor person's affairs or property, a financial advisor hired by the family, a relative who inherits property. Second option. What is the role of an agent in fact or proxy, a person authorized to legally act on behalf of another, usually named in a power of attorney or healthcare document, a person who witnesses a will signing, clerk, a court clerk who files estate documents, a beneficiary of the trust. First, which statement about a trustee is correct? Trustees are required in every trust. Trustees only exist in revocable trusts. Trustees are beneficiaries by default. Trustees are optional in trusts. First option. Excuse. Which of the following best describes a trust protector? Always a fiduciary role, never a fiduciary role, a role that may be fiduciary or non-fiduciary depending on the trust terms, a synonym for trustee. What the? I think it's never a fiduciary role. Which of the following is an example, excuse me, of a trustee's power rather than a duty? Safeguarding trust assets from theft, managing and investing trust assets, providing beneficiaries with annual account statements, acting with loyalty and impartiality toward beneficiaries, managing and investing trust assets. A trustee may exercise certain powers to administer the trust. Which of the following is not a trustee power? Appointing agents to assist the trustee, entering into contracts on behalf of the trust, making income tax and estate tax, elections, always acting in the best interest of beneficiaries. Not a trustee power. Um, Always acting in the best interest. Which of the following is a power of a trust protector acting with loyalty and impartiality toward beneficiaries, amending the trust agreement, safeguarding trust assets from theft, providing annual account statements to beneficiaries, amending? A trust protector may exercise certain powers to oversee or adjust the trust. Which of the following is not a trust protector power? A trust protector may exercise certain powers to oversee or adjust the trust, changing the applicable law or status of the trust, making distributions to beneficiaries, approving or rejecting trust accounting is not a trust power. Um, I think this one, making distributions to beneficiaries. Which of the following illustrates the breadth of authority a trust protector may hold, directing investments and trustee management of trust property, best interest of beneficiaries, filing tax returns, safeguarding trust property from misuse. My God, I don't know. The first choice. A gift of a particular item, group of items, specific monetary amount is called specific gift. Which type of gift involves the property left over after all specific gifts are satisfied? Residuary gift, conditional gift, lapse is cheat. First choice, a gift that only takes effect if a certain event occurs is known as conditional gift, specific gift, ademption, pretermitted ademption. What happens when a named beneficiary dies before the trust maker or testator? Ademption, lapse, anti-lapse is cheat, residuary, lapse, or anti-lapse. If a specific gift is no longer part of the estate of at death, the doctrine that applies is residuary gift, ademption, conditional gift is cheat. Last option. Wait, no, if a specific gift is no longer part of the estate, I think it's ademption. No, no, no. This is if a specific gift is no longer part of the estate of at death. Oh, a gift that only takes effect if a certain event occurs is known as this is conditional gift. Well, this one, if a species is no longer part ademption. Oh my God, I don't know. I forgot. May residuary na ba? It's ademption. It shall neither will be protected by pretermitted heir statute, ademption doctrine, lapse rules is cheat. When assets remain unclaimed, they are turned over to the state. This process is called as cheat. Which of the following best describes a pecuniary residual leftover property, a conditional gift dependent on an event, a specific gift of money or items, a gift that lapses when the beneficiary dies, the third option. So this one is correct. Which of the following best describes a trust agreement? The answer is it is a document that contains the trust's terms and instructions for the trustee. A trust agreement is the foundational document that sets out the trust's terms, including how the trustee must administer the trust. It is not a financial statement or certificate, but rather the guiding set of instructions. Next, what is a key feature of a revocable living trust? It can be changed or revoked during the trust maker's lifetime. A revocable living trust allows the trust maker or grantor to alter or revoke it during their lifetime. This flexibility distinguishes it from irrevocable trusts, which are much harder to change. Which statement about an irrevocable trust is most accurate? It cannot be easily changed, though exceptions sometimes exist. So, an irrevocable trust is designed to be permanent and not easily altered, while exceptions may exist, such as court approval or consent of beneficiaries. The general rule is that it cannot be freely changed. Which of the following best defines a fiduciary? Answer: someone who acts on behalf of another with a legal duty to act in their best interest. A fiduciary is legally obligated to act in the best interest of another person. This duty is broader than simply being an advisor or a witness. In the context of a trust, the trustee is always a fiduciary. A trustee is always a fiduciary because they must administer the trust according to its terms and in the best interest of beneficiaries. When someone dies without a will, the administrator appointed to manage the estate is always a fiduciary. An administrator is always a fiduciary even in intestacy because they must act in the best interest of heirs and follow the law. How does the role of an executor compare to that of an administrator? Answer: executor is the counterpart to administrator, but with a will and is always a fiduciary. So the executor fulfills the same fiduciary role as the administrator, but in the context of a will, executors are always fiduciaries. Why are many states adopting the term personal representative? Answer: to provide a gender neutral catch all term for both administrator and executor. Personal representative is a modern gender neutral term that encompasses both administrator and executor roles while maintaining fiduciary duties. Which statement about fiduciary standards is most accurate? Answer: professionals may be held to a higher fiduciary standard than lay people. So, professionals acting as fiduciaries, such as attorneys or financial advisors, are often held to stricter standards than lay people, reflecting their expertise and responsibilities. Which of the following best describes a conservator or guardian? Answer: a court appointed individual obligated to manage an incapacitated or minor person's affairs, property. A conservator or guardian is appointed by the court to manage the personal or financial affairs of someone who is incapacitated or a minor. This role is always fiduciary, meaning they must act in the best interest of the person. What is the role of an agent in fact or proxy? Answer: a person authorized to legally act on behalf of another, usually named in a power of attorney or healthcare document. An agent or proxy is given authority through legal documents like a power of attorney or healthcare directive to act on behalf of the principal. This role is always fiduciary, requiring decisions in the principal's best interest. Which statement about a trustee is correct? Answer: trustees are required in every trust. So every trust must have a trustee to administer it. The trustee is responsible for following the trust's terms and acting in the best interest of beneficiaries, making this role inherently fiduciary. Wow, I'm wrong on the next one. Which of the following best describes a trust protector? So it looks like the answer here is 6, 7. Letter C, right? Okay. The answer should have been letter C, a role that may be fiduciary or non-fiduciary depending on the trust terms. So a trust protector, so correct answer is C or the third option. A trust protector is an individual appointed to oversee aspects of a trust. Depending on the trust's language, this role can be fiduciary or non-fiduciary. Unlike trustees, trust protectors are not required in every trust. Which of the following is an example of a trustee's power rather than a duty? Answer: managing and investing trust assets. So duties involve obligations like loyalty, impartiality, and safeguarding assets. Powers are abilities granted to trustees such as managing and investing trust assets which they may exercise to fulfill their duties. Next, a trustee may exercise certain powers to administer the trust. Which of the following is not a trustee power? Answer: always acting in the best interest of beneficiaries. So, acting in the best interest of beneficiaries is a duty, not a power. Powers include appointing agents, entering contracts, making tax elections, merging, severing trusts, terminating trusts, and making distributions. Which of the following is a power of a trust protector? Answer: amending the trust agreement. Duties like loyalty, impartiality, and safeguarding assets belong to trustees. A trust protector's powers include amending the trust agreement, which gives flexibility to adapt the trust to changing circumstances. A trust protector may exercise certain powers to oversee or adjust the trust. Which of the following is not a trust protector power? Answer: making distributions to beneficiaries. So distributions are a trustee's responsibility. Trustees protectors instead hold supervisory powers such as removing trustees, changing status, approving accounting, or even terminating her trust. Excuse. Which of the following illustrates the breadth of authority a trust protector may hold? Directing investments and trustee management of trust property. That's the answer. Trust protectors can direct how trustees manage property and investments, giving them significant influence over trust administration. Duties like acting in beneficiaries' interest in or filing taxes fall into trustees, not protectors. A gift of a particular item or group of items or a specific monetary amount is called specific gift. So a specific gift, also called a pecuniary gift, refers to a clearly identified item or sum of money. Which type of gift involves the property left over after all specific gifts are satisfied? Residuary gift. Answer: so this gift covers the remainder of the estate or trust after specific gifts have been distributed. A gift that only takes effect if a certain event occurs is known as a conditional gift. Conditional gifts depend on the triggering events such as a marriage or graduation. What happens when a named beneficiary dies before the trust maker or testator? It lapse or anti-lapse. Lapse rules govern this situation. Anti-lapse statutes may redirect the gift to the beneficiary's descendants. Okay. If a specific gift is no longer part of the estate at death, the doctrine that applies is ademption. Ademption occurs when the item given is no longer owned by the estate or at death, so the gift fails. A child unintentionally omitted from a will may be protected by pretermitted heir statute. So pretermitted heir statutes safeguard children or descendants who were unintentionally left out of a will. When assets remain unclaimed, they are turned over to the state. This process is called escheat. So escheat ensures unclaimed property reverts to the state rather than remaining ownerless. Okay, one of the following best describes a pecuniary gift. Answer: it is a specific gift or money or items. Wow, I got one mistake of this part two quiz again. I think last time it was also one mistake. Not bad.